one of the other misconceptions that is out there is, you talk about control, you talk about, banning certain weapons, and all of a sudden you're against all guns,
Right.
And that's not what I'm hearing.
No, not at all. And I think one of the best examples is to look at the Tucson shooting. The Tucson shooter had a 30-round ammunition magazine in his Glock. That 30-round, that high-capacity magazine, had been banned from 1994 to 2004 as part of the assault weapon ban. Now, people might argue, well, that ban wasn't real effective because you still saw the high-capacity magazines being used between 94 and 2004. That's true. A lot of them were sold before the ban went into effect. They were allowed to sell the grandfathered ones. But by 2004, you talk to police officers, you look at studies, you didn't see as many of them out there. I mean, they get used up. And nobody was making new ones. The bad guys don't set up little factories to make ammunition magazines. So here was a ban that worked. It wasn't a ban of a gun. It was the ban on the high capacity ammunition magazine. What's the significance of that? Well, the significance in Tucson was he was stopped, not by the police who responded quickly, not by anybody else carrying a gun, and they were close by. He was stopped when his ammunition magazine emptied. And that's when the heroic, bystanders were able to jump in. If his magazine had emptied after 10 rounds instead of 30 rounds, that's 20 less bullets he would have been able to fire. And that's less people that would have been injured. So here's a law that was in effect for 10 years and worked. It directly relates to the Tucson shooting. It doesn't affect the legitimate hunter. They don't use high-capacity magazines. It's not needed for personal protection. If you're not able to scare off the bad guy, or by brandishing the gun with the 10-round magazine, or to scare him off with the 10 bullets you're able to fire, you're probably not going to be able to. The extra 20 rounds isn't going to help you. The only person who wants the high-capacity magazine to use it, other than just boy, this is fun to shoot out of the target range, is the guy who wants to kill a lot of people quickly. And why we should make something available just because it's fun at the shooting range, but is basically only used to kill a lot of people quickly, is beyond me. In the late 80s, we banned cop killer bullets. We we banned guns that don't show up in metal detectors or are hard to show up in metal detectors. Those weren't Second Amendment fights. Those were law and order fights, public safety fights. That's what we should do with looking at this clip. And there's some other weapons we should look at too. Since 1934, we have had restrictions on machine guns, fully automatic weapons. There's very few people I argue with. There are some, but there are very few people I argue with who say that that's gun control, that that's a gun ban. I mean, it is. I mean, it's restrictions on machine guns. It's been pretty successful. You don't see many machine guns used in bank robberies anymore. But we haven't really looked at that type of restriction lately, and we ought to look at which type of weapons are closer to the machine gun category that deserves some restrictions, as opposed to the area that shouldn't have restrictions. One example, and most people aren't familiar with this, there's something called the 50 caliber Barrett sniper rifle. It's a huge thing, hard to haul around. You usually see it in movies. It can fire, the bullets that go in this are yay long. It can fire over a mile. It is legal in this country. There was a report just a few days ago that somebody bought 3 of these at $6,000 each in a gun store near the Mexican border, and they ended up in Mexico pretty quickly. They can take out helicopters. They can take out airplanes that are sitting on the runway or just about to take off. It's now legal to take that right next to Reagan National Airport in the national park, set it up, load it, and point it at the flights that are coming in. Totally legal in this country. It's illegal to pull the trigger, but next time you're taking off from an airport, just think, do you really like the fact that anybody in this country can pretty much buy one of those and take it loaded and set it up? I'm not sure that's what's really needed.